Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Ainsworth, and we're going to get into kind of a review here where we're going to take a look at some 2 by 2 multiplication problems. And instead of doing the old way, we're going to stretch your mind and let you have a little creativity here and figure out how to approach these using the best mental method I've taught you. So, we're going to do some 2 by 2 multiplication. You have to use a new method and you have to illustrate your thinking on this. Okay, so remember that. All right, so let me give you some examples here so I can illustrate what I'm talking about. Suppose you're given this problem here where you got to take, I don't know, 47 times 91. I'm just making this up as I go. All right. I think looking at thinking about all the methods that we've learned so far, since 91 is close to 90, I think splitting 91 up into 90 and plus 91 using the addition method would be appropriate here because 9 times 47 is easy to do in your head because we've reviewed how to do the 2 by 1 multiplication so much. All right, so let me do that. Okay, I'm going to take 47, not times 91, but 90 plus 1 because, as you know, 91 is 90 plus 1. Okay, so, sorry, I have a little technical issue there. So what we have is we have 47 times 90 plus 1. Now ignore the 0. Look at 9 times 47. All right, think 9 times 47 in your mind here, okay? So when you're looking at this, I ignore the 0 and I go 9 times 40 is 360. 9 times 7 is 63. So in my mind, I'm visualizing this 360 and 63, which I know is 423. So I visualize that in my mind. All right, and then I add them and I get 423. All right, so what you have to do is you have to do this stuff. This is in your mind right here. So you're mentally doing these multiplying twice, and then of course you're adding them together here, and then you got to attach the 0. So because this is definitely not 423, it's 423 with a 0 attached because we're multiplying by 9 and not 90. So you do 9 times 40, which is 360, plus 9 times 763. You add them together, get 423. You write that down, attach the 0, and it's really 4233. And you can verify everything I'm doing, with a calculator if you have it side by side. I'm booting mine up as we go here. And I highly suggest that, by the way, when you're practicing, just so that you can check your work as you go, so you know that you're doing your mental math right. Okay, so I'm gonna just show you 47 times 90. So times 90 here. All right, you get 4230. Of course, you have to multiply by the 1 too as well. So you got to add 47 more because 47 times 1 is 47. You got to multiply by 91, not 90. So the 30 and the 40 is 70, so 4277. I look here and here, left to right. So 4230 plus 40 is 70, so 4277. Okay, and that is called the addition method. So let's highlight that. This is the addition method. All right, something that we learned in prior lessons. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the techniques, the new techniques that we've studied so far, and we're going to approach it not by the old way, but by the new way, because the whole goal is to get so good you can do this in your head. And people that are good, can believe it or not, can do this whole process in your mind. Okay? But it takes practice like anything. All right, so there's a problem that I would probably use the addition method on. Now, not all problems are good for the addition method, like this one right here. If I came up with, or someone asked me to multiply 35 times 29, I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't split 29 up into two parts, 20 plus 9, because that's harder. I would use the subtraction method because 29 is close to 30. So this is a good case or example where another method is more appropriate to do in your head. Because like I said, the whole idea is how to do it mentally quickly in your head. So 35 times 29 is the same thing as 35 times 30 minus 1. Okay, so mentally in my mind, I got to take 3 times 35 and attach a 0. 3 times 30 is 90. 3 times 5 is 15. 90 plus 15 is 105. Attach a 0. And then if you want, you can check it. Okay, 35 times 30. Look at this. Just check it off to the side. You get 1050, right? But you got to subtract 35. Why? Because you have to multiply twice, right? 35 times 1. And you got to subtract it because this is a subtraction method. Well, I know 50 minus 30 is 20. So 50 minus 35 is 15. It's got to be less than 20, right? So 1015. And you can check that too. So like I said, you can check everything, and you should. When I practice 2 by 2 multiplication in my head, I have a calculator nearby, and I do it in my head, and then I do this, 35 times 29. You got to make sure you're doing it right, right? Because if you're making mental mistakes and you're practicing the wrong way, you're going to get worse and not better. So have your calculator nearby when you're practicing at home, especially when you want to get good and you're practicing for tests or something like that. And then do it in your head and then check it. Do another one in your head, check it, and do it 1,000 times, and you get pretty good, believe it or not. Okay? Now we've learned quite a few methods so far. So let me show you something else that where a different method would be better here. Suppose I ended up with been given 52 times 25. All right. Now 52, well, I see a multiple of 25 first of all. So right now I'm thinking factory method right off the bat. Okay. So I want to get I want to see if this is divisible by 4 because 4 times 25 is 100 and multiplying by 100 and forming groups of 100, it makes it easy to do in your head. Well, 52 divided by 2 is 26, and divide that by 2 is 13. So I know it's divisible by 4. 4 times 13 is 52. And if you don't believe me, let me just do it right in front of you. So if I enter in 52 divided by 2, I said 26, divided by 2 again is 13. So I know if I divide by 2 twice, it's divisible by 4. 4 times 13 is 32. Let me show you. 4 times 13, 52. See? So I'm going to factor this. So factoring method's appropriate here. When you see 25, 50, even 75 or 100, think factoring method. This method is beautiful and works really well. You can do a little division and form groups of 100. Okay, so let's try it. So 13 times 4, that's 52. I just rewrote it. These two things are equal. All right, times 25. And I know that 4 groups of 25 is 100. So this is 13 times 100, or 1300. You can check that, okay? So 52 times 25. 52 quarters, okay? You're talking about, well, if you divide that by $13, right? So that's 1,300. It's 1,300 pennies is what I said, but the 1,300 pennies is $13. Okay, so anyways, that was a little side note. If you're dealing with groups of either 25, 50, or 100, maybe factoring method would be good, right? So let me even something like this, even 50, let's say. So let's do one more with factoring method here, just to set it home. If I see something like I don't know, 26, all right, times 50, I would say, oh, let me see. If I can get if 26 is divisible by 2, I can form another group of 100, all right, which makes things kind of nice. So let's see, factoring method again, 26, oops, hang on, I want to rewrite that. 26 is 13 times 2, right? So I just factored 26 right there. Most people can do that in your head, all right? And then times 50. Well, that's just 13 times, I ended up with the same answer. That's coincidental, guys. 13 times 100, right? All right, 13 times 100, 2 times 50, usually 100 here. And 13 times 100 is 1,300. Sorry about the same answer. That's totally coincidental, so don't think that happens all the time. All right, just popped in my head and, oh, has the same answer. Totally coincidental. Okay. All right, now let's switch method here. Suppose you had to multiply two identical numbers. So you have to do something like this. 35 times 35. Well, you know that this is just 35 squared, and we went over how to square a number ending in 5. So we need to switch techniques here. All right, so square a number ending in 5, and I forget which which lesson this was, but to do this one here, underline the 3 there and the tangents there, and all you have to do is think 3 times 4 is 12, and so my, whoops, 3 times 4 is 12, and so my answer is 1225, okay? It ends in a 25 all the time. All you have to do is take the first digit, multiply it by the next number. That's all we had to do. All right, even something like this, 75 times 75. Okay, well, that's the same thing as squaring 75, right? So I look at the 7. 7 times 8 is 56. All right, so I know my answer is 5625. All right, even if it's a 3-digit number, I taught you guys how to do that as well. Let me review that. So if you have something like 125 squared, or 125 times itself, okay, that's the same thing as taking 125 and squaring it. So you look at the 12 now. 12 times 13, that's 12 times 12 plus 1. You could do it that way. That's 144 plus 12 more, or 156. Or you can do 112 times 10 plus 13. You can do it that way. Addition method, that's 120 plus 36, or 156. So in this case, this one's 15625. All right, so that's one possibility there. And then suppose you end up with this situation here. Let me show you another technique. We went over all kinds of ways. In my last lesson, we learned something totally new. So let me show you that. So check this out. Suppose we take 17 squared. Okay, and this is squaring any two-digit number here. So here I taught you, said, hey, 17 is 7 away from 10. So add 7 and subtract 7. And you get 7 plus 17 is 24. 17 minus 7 is 10. You multiply the results, you get 240. And then you square the units digit. Okay, now 7 squared equals 49. So add that, and you get 289. All right, you can check that, by the way. You can take 17, square it, multiply it by itself, and you get 289. So you can use that method there. That's squaring any two-digit number. That was the previous lesson on lesson 15. All right, lesson number 15, if you guys want to refer to that. Got some computer issues right now. Hopefully I can get through this here. And so what you have to do, guys, is you have to get creative. Okay, and you have to say, hey, if you end up with numbers that lend to any certain method, you got to be able to switch methods at any time. So for example, if you end up with something like this, you're close, you look at 99 and say, hey, that's close to 100, right? So rewrite it as 26 times 100 minus 1, and take 2600 after you multiply the first time and subtract the number itself, and subtract it, and you get 2500. And what is that? 74. Okay. And so that's pretty quick. All right. Most people can do that in your head, believe it or not. So you're going to have to adjust here to whatever's method's best and easiest to not only do it on paper, but do in your head. So give it your best and practice the different methods. You have to show your thinking here because I got to see your method that you're using. So on this one here, go ahead and pass out basically the review on 2x2 multiplication. You can use any method you want, but you got to show your thinking. All right? Make sure you do that. I will not sign off any work, all right, unless you show your thinking on this one. All right, this is Mr. Ainsworth. I'll see you in my next lesson. Bye-bye.